Hello, I'm Ace, and today we're going to talk about how to customize your summons. What does that mean? We mean trying to make the summons more unique. We're going to do that by adding spells and passives, and we're going to learn how to work with the game files to then also add our own spells and passives. I am also working with a new recording software because I tried to record this video last night for 3 times, and with the snipping tools, each time as I pressed escape, it just closed them. So I decided to just go with a different recording device that records my whole screen the whole time through. So we should also be able to check it out in game together. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on our squirrel, and in the search bar, so here down in the root templates, we're going to click on our character, and then we're going to search for spells. Or spell, just spell. And you will get spell set and spells shown. Spell set is a pre-made set of spells and actions that you can give your creature. So I would say, let's maybe go, you can just click through it and test it out, see how you like it. I'd say we go with maybe common NPC actions. No throw, no shove, seeing that it's a squirrel. Actually, let's just give it common NPC actions. Spells. This is where we can now add spells that already exist in an easy way. We just click the point, and you can see all the spells that exist here. The thing is, a lot of the spells maybe require a certain resource, let's say key points for monk spells or just normal spell slots. And your squirrel doesn't have these. So a tip from my side is, if you write in MAG, in capital letters _, you're going to see all the spells that are related to mag items. And what are mag items? You maybe remember it from the mag raven gloves. It's the kind of tag that the devs use for magical gear. So gear that unlocks spells and passive and stuff like that. So by writing that in, we will see the things that are related to armor, which means they usually come without needing spell slots. There are a few armor pieces that still do, maybe very specific druids, like here, Mag Black Spore Cloud. This is, I think, from the endgame druid armor for the druids of the spores, so you need to be a druid of the spores for this to work, but most of the things should work on their own, but we're still gonna try it out. So let's just go through the list of the mag items first and see if we see anything that sounds interesting. What I was thinking of is making maybe the squirrel be a druid that is shapeshifted into a squirrel, and squirrel is its favorite wild shape form. So we are gonna add can just go through the list, see if you find anything interesting. Shout Mag 8 Self. I like this. I think this is from the Absolutist item that you get from the Goblin Camp. So this should give yourself 5 extra life and heal. The fire shield things are also really fun. I really like them, but they don't really fit a squirrel. Healing ward, mass healing ward. Let's give the squirrel a heal, seeing that it's a druid squirrel. See invisibility. It's also a fun ability that we can add. Here. Shapeshift into a different form or disguise. We can definitely try to use this. Maybe we say the squirrel is a tiefling female in its original form. So we're gonna add that. Stone skin fits a druid really well. And you just add them by double clicking them on the left side, and then they appear on the right side, or you can click them once and then click one of these icons too. And if you want to delete them, you do the same on the other side. You just double click them and then they disappear. So now stone skin disappeared, so we gotta add it again. Alright, let's see, maybe in one more other spell. Oh, I know a spell. On one hand, we're gonna add two other spells. We're gonna add Goodberry, target Goodberry, and we're gonna add the Dryad. I think it's called Conjure Woodland Being. And then we're gonna press OK. And now our squirrel, we're gonna save it. Here on the save button in the top. Now our squirrel should now have the spells that we assign to it when we summon it. So if you switch now to game mode, click in here once and then press Ctrl Shift F11. This time I'm going to show you something else. You're going to press A and then choose Add Debug Spell. This is on one hand an easy way to test out spells that you have. So we're going to use it to summon the squirrel without having to first summon the armor, equip the armor, then summon the squirrel. We can just directly do it this way. And also it's interesting if you want to try out some spells. This is the same list of all spells that exist. So you can just search for a spell here by typing it in after debug spell, let's say nature. And then you're going to see all the nature related abilities, and then you can just add them and let's see, it's supernatural attraction, no clue what this is, so we're just going to add it. Here you don't have to do anything, you just press enter. And then we get an ability here, supernatural attraction, you're part of a greater whole, concentrate on your connection to teleport to another infected creature. Okay, so this is also how you then can test out spells. We don't have another infected creature near, but this seems to be an illithid spell that lets you teleport to another person that has a worm too, it seems. Alright, so we're gonna remove the spell that I just showed for testing from the action bar, close this, and we're gonna add the actual spell to summon our squirrel. So Ctrl Shift F11, write A, and then double click Add Debug Spell. And then you're gonna write your tag, in my case ASE _, and then we already have target ASE summon. Double click that and then press enter. So now you can see our summon spell was added to the action bar of Gale, so we're gonna click this and summon our squirrel Max. And then if we click on Max now, we should see that she should have all the abilities. So let's see, on one hand Max gained a jump, we didn't have a jump last time, so this is really useful. Max gained an 8 spell, Absolute Talisman 8. So when we use that, and wait a second, her life should turn up to 6. Yep, there we go, 6 life. And you can also see it here, 8 until long rest, hit point maximum increased by 5. See invisibility, that was also from a mech ability. Oh look, it uses a book to cast it, that's beautiful. It works too. Now we can see invisibility. We have a mass healing word, -3 to 0 healing, so we know there's something maybe that we have to change about the spellcasting abilities of our scroll so it can actually heal. Because, let's see, 0 healing isn't really much, right? Yeah. Plus -2, plus -3, so our heals are so bad that they don't heal. We unlock the throw, which maybe in the squirrel form doesn't do much. And let's see what we did not unlock. Stone Skin, this did not work because it's a level 4 spell slot. Goodberry doesn't work, it's a level 1 spell slot. And Conjure Woodland Being is a level 4 spell slot, so it doesn't work either. And as you can see, we also cannot see our transform spell here, so we gotta work with that too. So let's make some notes. That is still from yesterday. Bug fixes to do. Alright, we have the humanoid form spell missing. I want to change the 8 spell, remove absolute in it. Then the Goodberry spell, we need to remove the spell cost. Same with the Summon Dryad. And then the Stone Skin. I think there is a Stone Skin spell that is from maybe when I searched for the Stone Skin again, maybe it added the wrong one. We can check if we have the max Stone Skin here. But this is basically what we have to do to fix the bugs that we have now with our spells, that we can't access them. So what we want to do with this, oh, actually look at this, our minus healing actually did some damage to us too. I didn't realize that earlier. So we definitely have to change that. Change abilities, or change stats is more what I mean, stats. And I think that is then it. And we obviously want to add passives later on too. So just, I don't forget, I'm going to highlight this. Alright, so let's check first the Stone Skin spell and see if there actually is a max Stone Skin that we used, or if we used a normal Stone Skin. So we're going to click here on the little points again and double check our Stone Skin spell. Yeah, target Stone Skin. This doesn't say max, so that's probably why, and I think there was a max Stone Skin. So let's look for that for a second. Shout max Stone Skin. Alright, let's add this, double click it, and then remove the other one by double clicking the other one on the assigned bar. Press OK, press save. And now the squirrel doesn't have the Stone Skin ability yet, because we first have to resummon it to reset its spells. So what we're gonna do for a quick second is we're gonna go to our stats editor, open our mod, go to spell data and open target. And just for our testing now, we're gonna change the duration, the cooldown, instead of once per short rest, once per turn. So we can resummon the squirrel every turn to test out the spells in real time without having to do a short rest each time we want to test it out. And then you're gonna save this in the target spell, minimize the window. I'm just gonna check if my recording is still going. Yep. And then we can go back to game mode. And now Gale should be able to summon. Oh no, already it updated. Check this out. It automatically updated. Gargoyle's Countenance. Become stone, granting resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing and slashing damage. There we go. Also, if we look at our stats, we can see we now have 10 turns of resistance here. We have 8, see invisibility, 9 remaining turns of Stone Skin. And check out our squirrel. It actually gets Stone Skin too. This is awesome. Alright, so the Stone Skin worked. Let's go here. While you're in here, if you still have this open on the sidebar, you can just press the points while you're still in the game mode and adjust it. So shout max shapeshift target Thiefling female. This did not work, so let's see if maybe another spell works. Let's try this one. Shout disguise self Thiefling female. Let's quickly resummon our squirrel. So you see this spell needed to first update, so I made a short rest and then the spell actually updated. Oh no, it still says short rest. Maybe we have to add the debug spell again. If not, we have to reload. Yeah, we might have to reload, but let's use this first and see if it worked. So it still did not work. So we know this one doesn't work. Can go back to the spell editor. See if there's maybe another one. Mech Shapeshift Tiefling Female. I don't think we tried this one yet.
You have my attention. That hit the spot.
Yeah, it still does not show. So we do have to work with that. So we're gonna remove this now. Tried out a few, we know it doesn't work, so we know we have to work with the actual stats to change that. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go to the stats editor again. And then here in the view panel, in the menu panel up in the corner left, in the upper left, we're gonna press view and then select find. Also in options, we're gonna turn off horizontal scroll sync because it can get really annoying. When you press find, this find bar will pop up and you can have the search bar and search for something. So if we search for squirrel, you will see it shows us our squirrel down here in the search results, and we could double click it and then it also leads us to the entry, which right now we already have open. So this is the local search. So at the moment this is very unimportant for us because we have very few entries in our mod, but later on this becomes also very important because you can then, if you have like my housing mods where you have over 400 items in one mod, it's very useful to be able to just search within your mod for a certain item, not having to scroll through everything. What we're going to do now is we're going to click on the local search, and this changes it to global search, so it should show in green now. And if we type squirrel now in here, we should also see other results. Alright, now we can see all the squirrel stats. Most of them are from us. So you can see here ASE, 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 ASE. But then there are also some 3 other stats. This is a treasure table. This is a name in the treasure table of an item. And this is the squirrel from shared that we used as a base for our squirrel. So this is how you generally use the search functions, really easy. And what we're going to do now is we're going to search for the spells that we wanted to use but had to adjust. So humanoid form spell didn't work. So let's search for tiefling and see what we find. Those are status. Like in this row you can see what type of thing it refers to. So here it's like, hey, it refers to an icon of a status effect. We are not working with status effects yet. That's a little bit more complicated. It's not a lot more complicated, just not for this video. We want to work with a shout or a target stat probably. Projectiles also fine. Those are the more easy things. Here's something, infiltration XPs, disguise yourself, but I think we can just customize the normal disguise self. Disguise self, tiefling female, shout stat. So this means it's a shout spell, this refers to the name, the next thing to the container spell. So if we double click on this, it will open the spell under shared. Shared is a folder like Gustav, Gustav Dev, shared. Those are folders that the devs use to structure the game files. So we can see this automatically opened shout under shared. And in there we can see the spell, disguise self tiefling female. And you can see it has a spell container ID, so that might be the reason why it didn't show up for us, because it's part of a container spell, so we would want to change that. So we're gonna just copy its name here, disguise self tiefling female, copy. And then we know it's a shout stat, so we're gonna create our own shout stat. I already have the shout open because I recorded this before, but you're gonna click the plus, you're gonna go to shout, and then you're gonna double click on shout, which then opens either this is closed, you have to unfold it, and then you double click on your shout spell. In name, you're just gonna write your tag, in my case ACE, and I'm also gonna use TUT, ACE tut, for tutorial from now on for this mod, just so I don't get any problems with my other mods. And then you're gonna paste the name that you had copied earlier in here. So you're just gonna call the spell your tag, and then the actual spell name. Under parent, you're just gonna paste it as well. And then you should have automatically the exact same spell now, like the parent spell. So now we didn't really do anything new. We have our own spell registered and it does something, but we need it to be our unique spell that does our things. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna delete the spell container, seeing that we just want to use the single spell, not as a container. Can leave that it is an illusion. We can maybe set a cooldown. Why set a cooldown? She can just always transfer to a tiefling. Spell properties says what it does. So apply the status of disguising oneself as a tiefling female, 100 -1. It always says these 100. I heard that it's like a leftover from the divinity tools, but that for Baldur's Gate, you just always keep the 100 in there. I think it's like if you want a spell to sometimes work, so if you want a 50% chance of a spell to work, in Divinity that was possible, in Baldur's Gate you just leave it at 100. And then -1 means it's permanent, so even after a long rest it should stay unless you dismiss it. So it, in this case, the effect should stay unless you dismiss it. We're gonna double check the spell cost to make sure it is not costing any spell slots. BD, use cost. There we see it does cost a spell slot, a level 1 spell slot, so we're gonna delete that and just leave action point double point 1 in here. And then we can also change the name and the description. Display name, we can maybe say dismiss squirrel. And description, transform back into your humanoid form. And then we're gonna save this, and then we created our own little spell. So we're gonna replicate this approach now for the other things that we had to bug fix. So I like to make notes like this, and then I like to cross them out when I worked on something, and then I'm gonna leave it until I delete it completely until only when the bug is fixed. So crossed out when it's done and delete completely when the bug is completely fixed. You can even just, like, if the bug is fixed, maybe like paste it somewhere else, and then you can use that to announce which type of bugs you had fixed in your mod when you upload a fresh version. But yeah, right now we're doing it simple, so we're just gonna cross it out, and then we're gonna focus on the aid spell, self-aid, we're going to remove the absolute in the description. So I think it was 8_self. Yeah, make 8 self. So we're going to double click that. We see it's also a shout spell, but it's not a shout shared like the this guy self, but it's in the folder Gustav dev. So here we're going to copy that spell too, the name of the spell. We're going to go back to our shout spells, write our tag again under name, ASE _, and then you're going to paste it. So this spell is now called ASE make 8 self, and parent you're just going to paste it in as well. And then we can already see here display name absolute talisman 8. We can just call it self 8. And the description we can leave it like it is. Save it. Now we created our second own spell. Going back to the notes, we can cross this out. Now we can move on to the Goodberry. You can see here Goodberry 4, Goodberry 5, these are upcasts. We just want to use a simple version, so we're just going to scroll down to the normal Goodberry. We can see here it's a target stat. That means it's a target spell, so we're going to double click it. Opens target spells under shared. Copy the Goodberry, so copy the name here, Goodberry. And then we're going to open our target stat, our target spell data. And we're going to make a new spell here called ASE _tut_ Goodberry. And parent, we're just going to paste it, Goodberry shared. Display name, think we can keep these things the same. In this case, we just have to work with the cost because it had a spell slot and our squirrel doesn't have spell slots. So BH use costs. We're going to remove spell slot groups 111. This means basically the last one means what type of spell slot group it uses. So this uses a level 1 spell slot. Delete that. And then we don't want to make it a complete ritual, so we're going to maybe give it a cooldown of a short rest. Save it. Now we have our next spell created. Can cross that out. Then we wanted to summon the Dryad and remove the spell cost there. The stone skin, we already resolved that by using the mag gloves. So let's search for woodland, because it's under woodland being, conjure woodland beings here, target stats, so we know it's a target spell, so we can stay in the target spells, double click it on the spell, then copy the name again, go to your target, write under name your tag, and then paste the spell name that you copied, paste the spell name under parent, change the cooldown, maybe once per rest. It's a very powerful spell for a squirrel. And then BH spell cost, use cost. You can see here it says little 4 at the end. This means it's a level 4 spell slot. We don't want that. We just want it to cost an action point, and save it. So now we work with the Dryad spell as well. Now we're gonna go over to changing the stats of our squirrel. Let's double check we've saved everything here. Can just close the ones that are saved already. And now we're gonna open character. So in your mod on the left, you go to stats, unfold it, double click on character. Then we have our squirrel here. And we can see level 1 squirrel, strength 2, dexterity, constitution, and we can just individualize that now based on our personal summon. So I'm going to say it's a squirrel that has a lot of dexterity. It's also druid originally, so it has some wisdom. Let's say maybe 15 wisdom. I think druids use wisdom, right? Yeah, I think so. Hit points, maybe for a druid summon I would say maybe 12 hit points is what a druid summon would have. XP reward is something you should change if you if your summon is based on a hostile creature, you should change it to civilian so that you don't get XP when you kill your own summon. Sight, hearing, field of view, we can leave that as it is. You can obviously also customize those things. So you can just, a lot of these things are easy to understand, right? Weight, you can just change the weight of your squirrel. FOV's field of view, you can change that. So these things are just basic. Default boosts. So it has by default a boost that it has a block to regaining hit points because it's counted as undead or construct. We don't want it to count as that. That's usually what like NPCs or summons are counted as. So we're gonna put empty in here. Path influence you can just keep, means like it's like avoiding maybe like lava and things like that. Standard proficiency bonus we can keep. And then these are interesting lines again. AC, AD, AE. So spellcasting ability, with which stat should it cast spells? So it casts with its strength, and its strength is 1. That's why we had negative heals. So we're gonna set it to the wisdom now. Unarmed melee attacks, dexterity, and unarmed ranged attacks. I mean, it doesn't really have ranged attacks, but we're just gonna say dexterity too. Action resources. This is also a nice one to... I'm sorry, a bit too far. It's a nice one to also customize a little bit. Here you can customize easily by changing basic things. So what I did, for example, with my cat mod, one of my cats is more close combat, crazy cat, so I gave it multiple reactions. This is what you can use for opportunity attacks, for example. Movement speed, we can now say 12, because I like to move a lot. I think it's very convenient. And maybe we can say, hey, our squirrel gets 2 bonus actions. Passives, darkness rules, I think we said it last time, you can just leave it. And then here the next ones after passives, AJ and the following, there you can put if your summon is resistant to anything or vulnerable. So I would say we can maybe say it has, as a druid and squirrel, has a little bit resistance to acid and to poison, seeing that it eats a lot of poisonous fruits and stuff like that. It gains some resistances over time. Initiative bonus if you wanted to have a better initiative. Progressions if you want to add individual pathways, so to say, that your characters levels up on, but we're not going to use that yet. That's for later video. And then you can leave the rest. And a last thing I wanted to mention here is the difficulty statuses. It says basically that in easy mode the health of your summon gets reduced, and in hard mode it gets increased. I would just leave it like that. Usually the only character or the only summon that I made that I changed this for was ASE, because I wanted her life to always be 243, because ACE243 is my username. So I wanted her life to be the same no matter the difficulty level, but usually I would just keep it so it adjusts the health a little bit to the difficulty modes. Then you can save this. Minimize it. So we change this now. We only have the passives left. Before we focus on the passives, we're going to test out our spells and see if they work. So what we're going to do is the spells that we created, we have to assign them to the squirrel. So here in our sidebar of Max, we're just going to click on spells again. And then we can still see the spells from before. We're going to double check that they're all correct. Shout Mag Aid Self, no, we're going to delete that. We created our own spell. Shout Mag Healing Word, we can leave that. See Invisibility, yes. Goodberry, delete this. Conjure Woodland Being, delete this. Stone Skin, delete that. And we're going to write our tag in the search bar for the added spells. So ASE Tut. And then we're going to see here Disguise self as a thiefling. 8. Conjure woodland being and goodberry. So we're just gonna add all of them by double clicking on the left side, and that will assign them on the right side as an assigned spell. We're gonna press OK. And then we're gonna reload the level and save everything. And switch to game mode, and we're lucky, our squirrel already has the stats change. You can see 12 hit points here. You can see dexterity is now 17. We didn't change its armor class, but it gets a +3 bonus because its dexterity is stronger now. And we see it has these resistances that we assigned. So it still has the old spells, so what we have to do with Gale is we're gonna summon now the gloves so we can use the reduced cooldown that we adjusted. So Control Shift F11 and then S, spawn item, double click that, and then you're gonna write your tag. So I already have it right here, A Squirrel McRaven gloves. Remember, wherever you click it, you spawn it, wherever your mouse is when you click it. Pick it up, equip the gloves. Here it should say cooldown once per turn. So we can now, for testing purposes, summon Max every turn. That's why we did that earlier. And now Max should have his updated spells. Goodberry. Here, Gale, take some good berries. Let's see if it's in his inventory. Yeah, 4 good berries. Conjure woodland being. Now the squirrel has its own summon. Dismiss squirrel form. Ah yeah, I forgot to change that. One thing I have to say, if you don't want your summon, if you add like I did now a transform into humanoid form spell, you don't have to, you can have them be naked when they transform. I just have to give them armor for YouTube purposes so that they're not naked when they transform. So you give them armor by, in the search bar of your summon, let's quickly go back to editor mode. So if you select your summon, wait till it's loaded, and then in the search bar you write equipment. You can see here equipment, and I did that yesterday but I forgot to delete it, but it says equipment rope. So here you can choose different like presets of equipment that you can give them. I just chose to give her a robe so she has some basic stuff, but we could also say robe and maybe staff. Staff C and robe. And then if we also want to give a staff or give medium armor, we also have to go back to the stats to our character. And here in proficiency group, BD, we got to choose the things that they're proficient with. So let's say quarterstaffs she's proficient with. And as a druid, light armor and medium armor, I think. And I think we can just leave it like that. Don't have to complicate it. So now we could also give it medium armor if we would want to, instead of just robes. So maybe we can even see if there's some druid armor that we can easily assign to the scroll. Let's check here, druid. Equipment druid. Perfect. Let's check that out. Save it. Go back to game mode. Dismiss scroll form. Still has the same equipment right now. Let's see if we re-summon her. Oh yeah, nice. Now she has druid gear. And then dispel this, guys. We can maybe add this spell too. The dispel this guy spell. And call it wild shape squirrel. But yeah, she looks like she's a proper druid right now, huh? And because we gave her proficiency, she can also do standards attacks with her quarterstaff. We could maybe even see if we want to give her Shilligella. Might be really fitting for a druid, Shilligella cantrip. But I think for now we can leave it like this. Yeah, I would like to change this spell disguise so it goes more in theme. And everything else seems to be... Oh no, look here, dismiss squirrel form. Oh no, that's the squirrel form. Yeah, that's to transform back into this spell disguise. So yeah, we gotta change this into transform into a squirrel. And then we can add some passives and then we're basically done. We're gonna save this, go back to our stats editor, go back to view and find, and then here dismiss. Let's see. You know what? This video is so long. We're just gonna leave it like that. Sometimes perfectionism doesn't help, you know. Sometimes if it's very good already and you just try to perfectionate it, you just drive yourself crazy. So we're just gonna leave it like it is right now. The whole purpose was either way to show you how to add passives and spells, and I think we did that. So now we're just gonna look if we can find some passives that we can add. So let's search for nature. See if we find anything nice nature related. Here you already see some passive stats. Order of Nature, Armor passive, Nature's Vengeance. Let's check out Order of Nature. It's called 4 Owlbear's Cup Armor passive. And it does undead creatures that hit the wearer receive 1 and beasts that hit the wearer deal an additional 1. And 1 is deal damage 1d6 radiant. So undead creatures that hit the wearer receive 1d6 radiant damage. Beasts that hit the wearer deal an additional 1. I think this is a fun little passive for a druid. So we're gonna give that to our squirrel as a passive. So here in the passives, we're just gonna copy the name. Gonna go back to our character. And then we're gonna go to the passives. AI passives, behind darkness rules, you're just gonna write a semicolon and then paste it. Now we unlock this passive for our character. Let's say we want to add something to our armor. We're going to open the armor, go to passives there. AD, passives on equip. And in here we're just going to paste the passive as well. So our gloves give the player the passive, but also our druid squirrel has the passive. Let's see if we find something else. Background Grove Keeper, passive stat. What's this? Background Grove Keeper. You have proficiency in animal handling and nature checks from your long stewardship at the Emerald Grove. I think this sounds perfect like a passive for max. So we're going to copy that. We go to character, passives. Behind this passive, we're going to write a semicolon and paste the passives in there. So let's search for a last passive that we're going to adjust a little bit, maybe to show how to adjust a passive. Here's an armor stat. This is not a passive, but we can work with that too. So you see here, this armor has a skill increase in nature. So if you check that out, it says boost on equip. You can also always like reference these things, right? For example, this item gives advantage on saving throws, wisdom, disadvantage on stealth. This unlocks a spell. This gives +1 in nature. So you could copy that, boost on equip. You see it's under armor. So you go to your armor, you go to boost on equip, and write a semicolon and just paste it in there. So we should get a +1 skill to nature when wearing the squirrel gloves. But we wanted to look for a passive that we can change. So I think this is a nice one, web immunity, especially for like a druid and a squirrel. Like it would make sense that a squirrel like could use like pretty well, could navigate pretty well without getting stuck somewhere. So we're gonna check this out. And we're gonna make this our own. So we're gonna copy it, and then we're gonna go to stats. You're gonna click on the plus, go to passives, double click that, and then you will unfold the stats, double click on passive that showed up there for you, and this will open your passive. So a name, it's the same thing like with the spell. So we're gonna write ASE _tut _ and then just paste the name. So now it says ASE tut for Nightwalker's web immunity. And then parent, we're just gonna paste it, and we have the for Nightwalker's web immunity. Display name Nightwalkers. We say maybe Squirrel's Grace. Description: can't be enwrapped, entangled, or ensnared, and can't slip on grease or ice. I wanted to slip on ice, so we're gonna delete this and have it able to be slipping on grease and ice to make it our own, because it always looks funny when someone slips on ice. Here you see there's no icon related to it. That is fine. Don't necessarily need one. So now here under boost, we can see there are a lot of entries here: status immunity web, status immunity ensnared, status immunity prone grease, status immunity prone ice. And we don't want the ice and the grease thing to be there, so we're just gonna delete it. Then we're gonna save it. And now we made our own passive that grants immunity to being enwebbed and snared, to vines and ensnaring strikes, but not to ice and grease. So we're gonna copy now our passive's name, and we're gonna add that to our squirrel. So behind the background growth keeper, just write a semicolon and paste it. And then we're gonna save that. Now we should be completely done. We're just gonna test it the last time in the modding tools, and then we're gonna test it in game. And then we're ready to republish and post this video. Probably for the purpose of the video, I will test it myself in game, but not record it. And if there's anything that needs to be changing, I'll start recording again and troubleshoot with you. But if everything is fine, I'll just leave it like it is.
A long way from Waterdeep.
Let's dismiss our dryad. Let's dismiss the old squirrel. And then reload the level. So now we either have it already, the gloves updated. Yes, they did. It says order of nature: undead creatures that hit the wearer receive 1 to 6 radiant damage, beasts that hit the wearer deal an additional 1 to 6 damage, summoned mag and nature +1. So we're missing something here, which is the, oh no, that was for the squirrel. We gave the squirrel the web immunity, so everything is fine with the gloves. I'm gonna summon our squirrel. Max has 12 life. And we can see here, has a quarterstaff, can dash, can throw things, see invisibility, has the skills self-aid, dismiss squirrel form, conjure dryad, conjure good berries, make some normal attacks. And if we dismiss the squirrel form, we're becoming a tiefling with druid druid armor. And then just transform back to a squirrel. Yeah, so we tested everything of these spells out. We're just going to check the passives of our squirrel. Now it says no notable features. Oh, you see here it has a -2 to nature checks. Wonder if it had a -4 before. So let's go back to our passives, double check why it doesn't show up. Under our properties, we're gonna say highlighted. This should now show the passive and highlight it on the character and not just have it as a background passive, so to say. It might be that the other passives are invisible passives, like the Grove Keeper passive, so we might not be able to see them, but we would have to make our own spells, as you can see. So Spirit's Grace was always there, it just didn't show up. We just changed that it's not hidden anymore, so now we can actually see it. If you would want the other passives to also show up and they don't show up at the moment, you would have to basically do the same that we did. You just recreate them and then as your own, and then you would put hidden, you don't let it be hidden, but you force it to always show, and then you will have it show up here under your scroll, but it still has these stats. So we can just save this. Or we already did. Go to project settings, publish local. And open our game and see if it works. Alright, I'm gonna leave this video like this. If there's anything that needs to be changed, I'm gonna record it and edit to this video. But I think for now, this should be fine as a tutorial video. You can try out the mod. I published a tutorial mod. I'll publish it, a new version for each guide that we make, so you can easily, you know, check out the files and see what was changed and how did I do it, and use it for learning purposes. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you have a lot of fun creating your summons. If you liked it, if this helped you, maybe leave a like or a comment, and yeah, I wish you all the best modding.